Put the jackalope down. It's like a weapon.
They just like to tease you
No.
with the skin, but they don't give you the snake.
You-
Out of
you
4?
heard- yeah, 4.
It's always 5 or 10.
No,
You're
I
going
just
out
did
of 4?
3 out of 4. 3 out of 4 jackalopes. You heard. Today, we're gonna talk about Reptile. It's all over the internet. It was #1 search movie on Netflix, and it just came out. And it's causing some controversy, just a little bit, as far as like, I don't know, some critics hate it. A lot of people like it pretty well. Here, we're gonna do a quick review, and then we're gonna dive in.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about some theories. I think the movie's pretty deep, so I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to do that. So
I actually think we'll get into it, but reading some of the reviews, I feel like it was a lot of people saying it wasn't very deep. I feel like there's depth there that maybe people are missing, because I feel like there's a lot of depth.
I think so too.
It's this guy's first film. What's his name?
Grant Singer.
Grant Singer. So it's Grant Singer's debut feature-length film.
All spoiler-free first, right?
Yeah, we're gonna start out with spoiler-free, just like kind of our general thoughts and impressions and stuff.
I really liked it. I thought it was really good. It's slow. So if you don't like a slow burn, this is probably not the movie for you. But if you don't mind a slow burn, I think that it did what it set out to do. It's creepy. There's a lot of questions that you ask yourself throughout the movie. There's like some fake outs, some leads that don't go anywhere,
which are important to like a mystery. There's
a pretty decent police presence in this movie, which is not necessarily my favorite type of movie normally, but I don't think that this was like a love story to the police in any kind of way.
Especially by the end of it, you really don't feel that way.
It was interesting. I think it was more, to me, the movie was more about characters and then trying to figure out what an individual character might do or choose in a given situation.
Yeah, I kept on, I think you kind of hit it there. I kept on feeling like I didn't know what any one character was going to do, because I didn't know what their underlying motivations were and stuff. And I will say, one thing I really liked about it was the acting, and the characters were all very complicated. There are some bad people in there, but a lot of them that seem bad aren't as bad as they seem, or they have redeeming qualities. So they kept me guessing, and in that way, it's mysterious. It's not the whole thing isn't like trying to solve the crime. A lot of it is like, what is this person? Who are they? How do they fit into the story? And I thought they did a good job with that.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I thought it was really great. Some of the visuals were particularly interesting. I know I'd read a couple of people saying this was derivative. I don't know what isn't at a certain point. So yeah, of course, it's a cop focused murder mystery. That's not a brand new concept. So yeah, there are a lot of things in here that feel like other movies. There are a couple of scenes that feel a little bit like Gone Girl. There are some visuals that look like it, but the story's really nothing like that. Nothing where I would say the movie was trying to be that or something.
Yeah.
If you liked Gone Girl, the movie, or True Detective, the TV show, you might like this.
Yeah, definitely. I usually feel like I trust Rotten Tomatoes pretty well. Their critic score was really low, and as compared to IMDb and compared to the audience reception, the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes was 42%, and the audience score was 76%. So the critics and Rotten Tomatoes were just blasting it. This one says, the fallout from all this purposeful gloom isn't merely that nothing surprises us. Even Del Toro's committed portrayal of a careful man's gathering disillusionment gets jammed up.
I swear to God, I will jam you into the middle of next week until there is nothing left of the two of you to jam. Do you understand what we're saying to you?
Not really.
Calm down, dude.
So I'm like, what are these people?
What does it mean?
Yeah. This is one I agree with. After a fast start, the middle part falters. The middle was the worst part. The critic tomato score was worse than The Nun 2, Strays, Spy Kids Armageddon, The Meg, Conjuring Devil Made Me Do It, which is, I think, well known to be the worst one that people are like, don't even watch it.
It's bad.
And then even Twilight got a better score than this. And Twilight is like, Robert Pattinson made fun of the entire movie from beginning to end. All the press junkets, all he did was rip it.
I was convinced that Stephanie was convinced she was Bella. And especially when she says, "Oh, it was based on a dream," and it's like, "Oh, I had this dream about this really sexy guy," and she just writes this book about it. It's like, this woman is mad.
I can't believe that this is worse than any of those after seeing it. I just don't agree. I do feel more in line with like the IMDb report, which is 6.9. And that's more in line with what the audience felt.
It was very well done, really good quality, really great acting. The way the actors interacted with each other was really good, very believable. And I thought the story was really interesting, and I would definitely recommend it. So I'm not on the same page. And I thought, and we'll get into this, I guess, when we talk more about, like in the spoiler section, when we talk about our theories about things, but I actually thought the themes were really deep in this movie. I thought there were lots of things that you could kind of like threads to unravel and different directions to go in terms of thinking about the movie. At some point in the movie, there's a dream sequence, which is always a little bit rough, and it just could have been removed from the movie entirely. And the runtime is long. It's 2 hours and 14 minutes, and it just doesn't need to be 2 hours and 14 minutes. Yeah. It's really too long. So
they could have at least cut a half hour out of that, probably.
The pacing in the middle, the beginning and the end are both, they move really well. The middle gets a little stagnant.
It's probably a lot like this video.
No, you're going to edit it good. Justin Timberlake was good in this movie. He was really good in this movie. And I don't always feel that way about Justin Timberlake, so...
I think he did a great job.
And Alicia Silverstone was good, too. I'd seen her in a movie previously and thought that she was absolutely terrible. So I didn't have high expectations going into this one, but I really felt like she did a good job playing the character that she had.
She did. Benicia was obviously amazing. It's who everybody's talking about. And, you know, we both really liked Michael Pitt. Eli, the character, was like really interesting. And I thought he kind of one review said he kind of saved the middle of the movie and like the intrigue around his character, and I think his portrayal. They did a good job.
Yeah, he did great.
Are we going to get into the plot themes?
Yeah, let's go. Like, we may be seeing things that the director, the writers did not intend, and that's okay.
So one thing you said, which I thought was funny, was it's called Reptile, and there are no reptiles.
Yeah, there's none. Like, rude, honestly.
But they did show snake skin one time.
They did. It's just like to tease you with the skin, but they don't give you the snake. But they do. But they do. They do give you the snakes.
There's snakes everywhere.
Everywhere. Justin Timberlake plays this character that his girlfriend gets murdered brutally. And
he may or may not have done it.
Sure. Yeah. He was involved at the very least. But you find out kind of through the course of the movie that Justin Timberlake, his character, is not a good guy. He's involved in drug money laundering schemes in which he takes his unsuspecting girlfriends and has them sell houses that have been, what is that called?
Like seized because they had a bunch of drugs and like heroin sitting in there. Yeah.
So they've been seized by the police and then reselling those, and all the money is getting laundered. And then he doesn't actually pay any of these girlfriends the commissions on the home sales, and instead tells them that he is like reinvesting their money into whatever the thing is that they want their money to be invested in. But that's not happening. And you see him very early on in the movie, his girlfriend gets murdered. And of course, he plays the part of the grieving boyfriend. And then you see him very quickly going into a bar, using that sob story to pick up a new girl who wants to get into real estate. And he's starting all over with that new girl. So he's like,
new Summer,
she's the new, she's the new Summer, she's the new girlfriend, she's the new skin, basically.
Yeah. So he's like, I think when you described his girlfriend as the snake skin, I thought that was really smart because he sheds Summer like he would shed any other like girlfriend. So if there's a snake there, if there's a single snake, it's got to be Justin Timberlake, right?
Yeah. And then he just walks away, right? Like that previous skin, his previous home in a way, is just trash to him, and he moves on because he's got something newer and better. Yeah.
Or just a new husk to ditch whenever. It's not even newer or better. It's just like the old one got corrupted because she was going to rat him out, and then he just got a new one.
Yeah.
So I thought that's kind of a really like interesting analogy for the snake skin and the reptile itself. The reptile shedding its skin is also a form of rebirth. You're getting like it's like when a crab like or a bug like like sheds its husk. You have like a new fresh layer, right? And I thought Benicio del Toro's character arc kind of like showed that like new freshness, the rebirth element of like the snake shedding its skin, whereas Justin Timberlake was this like evil, sinister form. Like Benicio is sort of the more benevolent form. His character is a cop, obviously, and he has this history of like kind of like covering for corrupt cops. Everybody around him, you're watching this movie, everybody around him could be looked at as like a reptile of sorts. They're all lying. They're all kind of like stabbing people in the back. His own wife is like flirting with the contractor. Like all of his coworkers are trying to like corrupt him and sort of like schmooze with him, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. Like and he basically just like shuts up and puts up. And you don't know if he's a bad guy or not throughout the entire film. After he gets in a shooting with Summer's ex-husband, he has a change, and even says it to his therapist. He's like, I had this dream where I could pull the trigger, and I'm like a different person now. And from that point on in the story, I thought his character was way more likable. He starts digging in, and he ends up culminating in killing his boss, and I think his boss's boss and his coworker that are all. Well, he actually doesn't kill Alan. Alan gets killed by Wally, but he kills two of these people that are involved in the drug ring that are complicit probably in murders and money laundering and all sorts of corrupt things. So he actually shoots his own coworkers because they're coming for him too. And that I felt like for that character was a really strong redemption arc. That rebirth of the snake skin or whatever, kind of like that imagery again. Like he has a fresh layer, a new outlook, and he's done putting up with the crap. And he there's a point earlier too where there's this blue line flag. There's that total line mentality in cop culture, and he's not towing the line with people that are breaking the rules. He's not just doing whatever. He's gonna do what's right, which was stopping the mess.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty powerful.
I think at one point in the movie, and it's like pretty close to when you see the snake skin, it's when you start to realize that like everyone around Benicio del Toro is not a good person.
Yeah.
It's like everyone around him is like he's surrounded by snakes in a way.
I think there's even a scene where he's kind of like looking around the room and he's just like recognizing it almost.
Yeah. And it's like his wife is flirting with the contractor. So and you know, the insinuation is like maybe having an affair with the contractor. He's starting to realize that like his buddies that are either police officers or like involved with the police in some kind of way are probably involved in narcotics trade. He just starts looking around and you see everybody is doing something awful. And then that leads into, there's one other character named Alan who hasn't really done anything that you would look at and say he's done anything wrong. And that kind of leads into then like Alan's storyline moving along and you getting to see how Alan is not that great of a person either. It's almost like a foreshadowing of that. You just start to see, I mean, literally every single person.
Well, he's one that you don't see until very late. The whole time you're thinking this Alan guy's a pretty swell dude.
Yeah.
And he is in ways, but he isn't in others.
Yeah. Well,
it's that like levels of guilt thing that we were talking about.
Yeah. And that's when it starts to get into like passive versus active violence, like passive versus active guilt. In the beginning of the movie, when they introduced Benicio del Toro's character, you hear information off the side of basically people insinuating that he was involved in like illegal behavior at his previous police precinct, and someone says, no, he's clean. It was his partner. And then at another point in the movie, someone says, yeah, but that was his partner for 6 years. He knew. Right?
That was Eli, right? Eli was like, you knew it. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, what? And he almost like,
you know,
he calls him out right there in front of his new partner. He's like, that's kind of weird, huh?
So even if Benicio del Toro's character is clean, he knew that this person he was close to was doing illegal things and engaging in really awful behavior. And then this question starts to come up, I think, that's like throughout the movie of like, at what point are you guilty just by being involved around people and not saying anything, not stopping it, not speaking up, like at what point then are you also corrupt? Like you're participating, you're allowing it to happen.
Alan shows that perfectly, that we talked about. You never see Alan do a single bad thing except for watch the car that was involved in the murder. But you know he knows all of it. You know he's turning a blind eye to all of it. And I thought it was interesting too that he, like we talked about how he kind of parallels Benicio's character, and that like it's like you're going to be the captain eventually too, maybe, and like that's going to be your future. You know, this is what your silence gets you, is involved in murdering people and laundering heroin and drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of like the really like one of the more interesting themes, because one of the big questions, like throughout the movie, you kind of think, oh, the big question I'm supposed to answer is who killed Summer? You know, who killed Justin Timberlake's girlfriend? That's the question that I'm looking for answers to. And you never really get the answer because it's all of them.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's one of the bigger things where it's like, even if you didn't stab her, even if you didn't, you know, drive someone to go do it, if you're involved at all, if you're hiding the car, if you know that these people are engaged in these activities, if you're funding it, if your money is funding the drug like laundering that's happening, or drug activities that are happening.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like you are involved and you are complicit in her death, and they all were in that way.
And I like that they didn't show who killed her, because it kind of does imply, and I even think, like we've talked about this, like she got stuck with a knife so hard it was in her bone. Well, maybe Justin Timberlake stabbed her, but Wally like mostly killed her. Like you never see who did it. To the point that it could have literally been multiple people that inflicted wounds on her body before she died.
Right.
And
in a way, smart. That is what's happening. And I mean, even after her death, you see Alan hiding the vehicle that they would have used to identify the murderer.
Yep, Alan's part of it.
Yeah. And, you know, he's culpable too.
Yeah. I thought, and like intentional or not, it ends up feeling like a really smart way to talk about culpability and guilt. And we've talked about in our own personal lives, like how like people, we watched another movie recently, forget the name of it, but they talk about like how people justify their violence through bureaucracy, basically. It's like, oh, well, I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't stab her. I didn't hide the drugs. Oh, but you did cover for those people. You're responsible for those crimes. We can't just like turn a blind eye to all these things that we are co-signing.
Right.
You know? So I thought intentional or not, it's kind of a genius part of the film.
It's very possible that none of these things are intentional.
Right here, I was reading a thing where they asked the guy, Singer, and he apparently said that he likes one-word titles, and that it does, and we talked about this a moment ago, he says that it's about how your first impressions of the characters aren't really accurate, and they're all kind of like reptilian in a way. Which we did feel that.
Yeah, definitely.
But if that's where it ends, you know, fine. But if you see the reptile in these other instances, like the rebirth and the snakeskin with Justin Timberlake, I thought those were both like really cool imageries.
Well, and sometimes you don't mean something, right? So like he picked Reptile for a reason that felt right to him, and then it doesn't mean that like what we're saying is wrong just because it wasn't intentional.
Yeah, we're not saying he planned it, you know, but that's like the genius of art, is that sometimes you accidentally come up with something that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't mean this was an accident either. I mean, clearly it's along that same line, because you definitely do see that where like you don't necessarily know what decisions the characters are going to make based on your first impression of them. That is very true of this movie. So
there was some very intelligent elements to like the way the characters are written. So yeah, it's like thriller in a different way, mystery in a way of like the characters themselves and their interactions. I thought was almost like there's a whodunit element that was almost secondary. It was like a tapestry for the rest of the story.
Yeah.
And I think if you're focused on I should be able to solve this before the story's over, you're kind of missing the point of the movie.
Yeah.
It's not one of those, here are the clues, because you talked about it. You're like, people always watch these movies and they're like, they know who did it at the very beginning.
Right.
And so I was looking for stuff, but you're not going to find that in this movie. It's not the kind of movie it is. I think it's more of a, who are these people?
Yeah,
kind of movie.
You're going to miss out on like the nuance of the characters if all you're looking for is who did it. And then if you're looking for big twists, this is not really that movie. It's not like at any point I felt like, oh, this was a big twist. In fact, like in general, you think some of these people are involved, they're involved,
Somebody talked about how they felt, and I'm not sure if this is shown anywhere, but they felt like Benicio may have helped write Alicia Silverstone's character a little bit more dynamically, because instead of just being the cop's wife, she helps him solve the crime. She says stuff like, it's usually the husband or like the spurned lover. So she basically says at the very beginning, and as well as a lot of people have heard this kind of thing, but she's basically like, it's probably Justin Timberlake or the ex-husband, and they were both in some way involved, by the end of the story, it's kind of true. There isn't like a huge twist. Like Justin Timberlake's dirty as fuck, and you feel it, and that's okay.
It was also cool, I think, how like all of these people that you wouldn't expect to be related to each other have any kind of like link between each other are all linked. And I think that was a neat thing, that it's not a big twist. It's not like I was like, oh my gosh, it's not like a Shyamalan level, like twist situation, but you don't expect somebody, Justin Timberlake and his mom are really wealthy. You don't expect them to be involved with these like mafioso style police people. You don't expect them to be involved with this drug addict that's living out in the middle of nowhere in like a small kind of rundown house. You don't expect them all to be linked at the outset of the movie. And that I think was neat to see how they're all connected to each other. And how they each play like a part in the ultimate story that got told.
In a way, it was very equalizing too, because they're terrible people in every facet of society. It's like the wealthiest person in town, the cops, the poorest people in town. They're all getting a slice of that pie. Like it was like, and then how certain people were being abused and manipulated in that system as well, or taken advantage of.
It was cool too. I think you talked about this a little bit when we talked about it earlier, but like money was common thread throughout this. So they try and bribe Benicio del Toro's character by giving him this Medal of Valor that comes with a check. So they're basically bribing him to shut up because they know he knows too much. Justin Timberlake's character and his mom are very wealthy, and they're using that really violently against other people.
All these cops are loaded with like houses and cars and stuff.
Rolexes.
Yep. And the guy Wally tries to bribe him with like basically women and money and gifts, and Benicio turns it away every time. Every person in that movie that had money was an asshole. Yeah. And was like involved in crimes. Yeah. Basically. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was all really, I don't know. I thought it was a really great movie. I don't think it's a movie that I would watch a whole bunch of times, like over and over again.
You kind of, if you think about it or you talk about it with somebody, I feel like you kind of get what you need out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would also recommend it. Yeah, and the fact that you said this is Grant Singer's first movie.
For sure. That's
amazing.
First feature length.
That's great.
We actually just reviewed Talk to Me, and that being a first movie, like, I don't feel that differently about this one. Like Talk to Me was special in a way that this one missed because of how unique it was. Yeah. But this one was clean. It had big names.
It was good.
It felt good. Like,
it did.
I don't know. I'd watch his stuff again.
It did feel to me somewhat like it was, and maybe this is where the derivative comments come in, but it did feel almost like, someone trying to be something. Like, I don't fully feel like the personality of like the director.
This isn't a Wes Anderson film. You're not like watching and being like, I know David Singer or Grant Singer. I know Grant Singer,
Yeah, but it was still really good. Yeah. Very cool, and I would definitely be excited for whatever he does next. Yep. We should be encouraging original movies. And this is an original movie. It's not a Spider-Man remake. 17. Yeah. Like this is an original concept for a movie. It was really good. And I would gladly watch whatever he comes out with next.
I'd definitely give it another try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, those are our opinions about the movie. Obviously, like we Conraded it, and I think you're welcome to as well. But I don't know if you have like different opinions about stuff, or if you notice things we did. A lot of people I saw talking about plot holes. I didn't see a ton of plot holes, but if you're like, oh, this made me mad, like. Yeah. I don't know, let me know.
Yeah, tell us what you think. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was it too slow for you? Was it not thrilling?
I liked the ending. The visceral, like sort of revenge ending, like the justice, the fucking redemption. Like I thought it was sharp as hell. I was really thrilled at the end.
Do you want to rate it? Do you want to rate
Yeah.
it on jackalopes?
I would give it.
How many jackalopes would you give it?
Well, how many jackalopes is the maximum?
That's a good question.
I give it 3 jackalopes.
I give it
You know how many?
what?
I give it 3. That's it. 3 jackalopes.
Okay, you give it 3 jackalopes. I give it 3.5 jackalopes.
Okay.
I guess this is on a 5 jackalope scale.
I was thinking 4 jackalope scale.
Really?
So you're 3.5 out.
4 jackalope? 4?
Yeah.
Out of
You
4?
heard- Yeah. 4.
It's always 5 or 10.
No,
You're
I
going
just
out
did
of 4?
3 out of 4. 3 out of 4 jackalopes. You heard?
How did you do 4?
What? I don't know, because I knew you wouldn't pick 4. You would never expect it.
I
You would
wouldn't
never
expect
it.
18 either.
18 jackalopes? Well, it wasn't 3 out of 18 jackalopes. You knew it was somewhere in the ballpark.
You think it was a 75% movie?
Well, you said it was right
3
at
out of 4?
3.5 out of 5. What's that?
75 out of 100 jackalopes.
All right, we're done here.
It has whiskers.
Thank you for watching our video.
Thank you.
Put the jackalope down. Put the jackalope down. It's like a weapon. Okay, put the jackalope down. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Like and subscribe if you want to see more that may or may not be like this video.
I like movies, so
We want to make more.
I want to talk about movies.
Okay, yeah. Well,
I'm crying again.
come back next time. What? This isn't a crying video. Okay, bye.
I'm in a maroon sweater.
And I got it knocked, and I started going, "Wah!"
Hey, we're gonna go on a cruise this summer. You should come with us.